Good morning, kiddos. I wanted to read to you today A Christmas Carol. This is a classic, and if you ever have a chance to read the actual Charles Dickens version, actually read it, not just watch the movies that have been made. It's a really good read. So I'm going to read this to you today because at the end we find out, that Christmas is about more than what Scrooge thought it was about. Even on Christmas Eve, all greedy Ebenezer Scrooge cared about was counting his pile of gold coins. Bob Cratchit, his kind clerk, was getting ready to leave the office. "Mr. Scrooge," Bob began, "would you join my family and me for Christmas dinner tomorrow?" "Bah, humbug," Scrooge snapped. And this is another pop-up book. I love these. So Bob Cratchit went home with his family, and Scrooge went home alone. Later that night, Scrooge was awakened by a ghost of the Christmas past. They traveled back to Scrooge's school days. "Spending Christmas with my family was so special," said Scrooge. So even though this book is about Christmas, it's also got a little bit of economics in it, because I want you to understand that Scrooge's clerk was very poor. Scrooge was what's called a miser. He liked money, and he wanted to keep money all the time for himself, and he paid his clerk very little. And these were also really hard times back when Charles Dickens wrote this book. Economically, it was hard for people, and it took place in England. And a lot of people just didn't have a lot of money at that time. So the people that did have money would have a wonderful Christmas with fresh fruits and meats and vegetables. And these things were hard to come by in the winter back during this time period of the 1700s, because they didn't have refrigeration. And it was wintertime in England, so you weren't growing these things. So they had to be shipped in on a ship. So if you were wealthy enough to be able to afford these things economically, your family ate well and healthy. But if you weren't and you were poor, you did not eat that well. You didn't have your fruits and vegetables. So there's a little economics lesson for social studies in with this book. I know you guys know how I am about making all these connections. Suddenly, Scrooge found himself with the ghost of Christmas present in Bob Cratchit's simple home. Tiny Tim was quite ill, but he was laughing as he sat on his daddy's shoulders. "How can they be so happy," Scrooge wondered, "when they have so little money?" "They have each other," said the wise spirit. Finally, the fearsome ghost of Christmas yet to come showed Scrooge his dark and lonely future. Scrooge covered his eyes and ran away from the vision. "I'll change," he yelled. "I'll change." I just love these pictures. I love the illustrations in here. When Scrooge opened his eyes, he was safe in his own room. "I have another chance," he cried as he leapt out of bed. Scrooge raced through the snowy streets shouting "Happy Christmas!" and stopped only to buy a special gift. The Cratchit family was surprised when Scrooge arrived with a turkey twice as big as Tiny Tim. Surrounded by new friends, Scrooge understood what the spirits were trying to tell him. Scrooge laughed a merry laugh when Tiny Tim said, "God bless us, every one." So I want you to think about what the moral or the reason for this story is. What lesson did Scrooge learn in this story? And again, make that connection back to our Bible lesson about what the true meaning of Christmas is and why we celebrate this holiday. But also remember that being with your family right now, at a time when we are forced to stay home, can be a very positive thing. And I want you guys to really enjoy this time with your parents, this extra time, because your parents may be a little stressed out, but this is also a blessing for them because believe me, as a mom, our kiddos grow up really fast. So don't give your parents a hard time during this, okay? I want you guys to be good for them and enjoy this. Love you.